What's going on? This is Prezzy, and we're here today celebrating my brother Domincello's new project, the instrumental exercise in tradition, as they say, the old-fashioned number 95. It's a badass project.
So, Prezzy came up to me with an interesting concept, which I really liked. So taking a bunch of classic beats or samples from the 90s, right, particularly around the year 95, and kind of putting my own spin on it.
I was feeling real inspired one day. We had been talking about just certain beats from when we grew up, like in songs that left the impact on our collective, subconscious or whatever. And I had the idea, like, it would be cool to flip a lot of those old beats and see if we could do something new. And but this is when Dom really had just kind of really started getting more into sampling, like around this time when I thought of the idea. And I thought, like, in my head, I said, like, this could be an opportunity to kind of kill two birds with one stone, because we could really dig in on the sampling and working on some cool stuff. And it's like, at the same time, who better to spar with, right, than the giants that were here before, right? The collection that I came up with was like, 6 songs. And what I did was I didn't tell Dom anything about, like, what that sample turned out to be. Like, I just gave him, sample these six beats, sample these 6 songs for me. And, he was like, well, some of this sounds familiar, It was like, yeah, do you recognize it from somewhere? And he's like, I feel like I do, but.
So some of the samples I definitely recognized, but a lot of them I didn't, or they felt mad familiar, you know what I mean? So I didn't really go check some of the original beats until afterwards, because I didn't want it to tarnish it, and I wanted to really come at it with my perspective, what I was hearing when I heard these samples, right off the bat. And on some of these tracks, on the 4th one, I literally must have went through that. I came up with about 4 or 5 different beats for it, and then ended up landing on the one I did, and which I'm happy I did go through that progression, because the last one came out sick,
It was funny because as we were going, like, he would send me, like, I was fucking with this one tonight, blah blah blah, and he sent something over, and it was a couple, like, he hit the same, like, it was so crazy that someone would basically flip it exactly the same way as someone had, without knowing that's how it was used. But then there was a couple other ones where I had to go back and be like, I wouldn't even thought to use that as a loop. And he finessed it in a certain way that it was really unique, and it was like, this might be something better than just something for me and him to have as an exercise.
There were certain parts of the sample that I knew were familiar, like for the Biggie sample, for instance. And I didn't want to use that exact same part, obviously, because you can run with that. You can hear it real clear. So I kind of peppered it in a different way. But for the most part, it was, one track. There was one Alchemist track that I think I heard that was a little similar, like they took a similar cut that I pulled, but it was pretty much, I was happy that it wasn't really spot on at all. It was kind of everything unique.
After a couple of these that he had sent to me, it was like, we're messing with ingredients. My background was in the food service industry. I was restaurants, bars, all that kind of stuff. One of the things that was like a signature of a high-class establishment is that they would update their menu based on the seasons, and it would have different ingredients because they were fresh, And that kind of was in my mind when it was like, Domincello sound like an expensive liqueur. So I kind of was like, I used to do seasonal cocktails too. So it's like the old-fashioned number 95 made sense to me, because it was like, an old-fashioned is a classic cocktail, and the number 95, obviously, from the year 95. So I thought, that this could be something. And, Dom, he's like me, man. One of the reasons we got good chemistry, I think, I mean, obviously you have history knowing someone for that long. You're gonna have chemistry just off of that. But we're both detail guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got different areas of expertise, but we're both detail guys. So it's like, he doesn't say Dom doesn't just loop something up and send it and say I made a beat. You know what I'm saying? Dom's like, it's a fucking art project for him. And so
you know what the plan is that every, you know, whether it's a couple times a year or whatever that frequency is going to end up being, we're going to be putting out a couple of different curated projects that are going to have similar kind of multiple layers to them, that, you know, fans can kind of sink their teeth into, in a sense, where there's a lot of different aspects that are kind of pulled into it. From an engineering and producing standpoint, I want to be the best.
I would put my hat on the table that the level of development from the sample to the way it's used in drums and all that stuff. This guy, he's a very creative and a distinct creative, like in a way where, you know, you're like, oh shit, I didn't see that coming. And to get that off of a beat is fucking badass, you know, without question. It's real easy to arrange some drums, you know. It's real easy to chop a loop up. Everybody can do that. But to have it where in the 3-minute beat, you know, there's 4 or 5 right hooks that you didn't see coming, you heard it. You know what I'm saying?